shop, Rad Industries, and right here we have a complete kit from Cage Kits. The idea behind this kit is that Cage Kits will get a chassis, they'll first strip the interior or go to a chassis that has the interior stripped, and then they'll 3D scan the whole inside of the car, the bare inside of the car. They will make this cage to exact fitment of the interior of that chassis. They'll bend it, obviously, as you can see, they'll notch it, coat the tubing, and then they send it as a kit to the end user, but it's not bolt-in, so the end user has to be able to have some fabricating skills, minimal fabricating skills, but has to definitely be able to weld and know how to weld properly and prep the metal of the chassis before they install the base plates. Today and over the next couple days, we're gonna show you the benefits of a Cage Kits roll cage and how good they fit and how easy they are to install and how much money you save by going this route versus buying the material on your own, spending all the labor hours to measure the given chassis that you're putting a cage in, bending the tubing, notching the tubing, and then making your own base plates the old school way, which we've done here many times. It would be $5,000 plus for a roll cage, especially material costs have gone up a lot. Add that into there. This is very cost effective and it's like literally perfect fitment. So let's open this up and see how cool it is. So this cage for the FRS or GT86 chassis, this is the first one that Rob Parsons has sent out, and he's gonna have us do the install. We're making the video for you guys, and we're gonna show you how easy it comes together. In our case, we already have the interior stripped out, so we're gonna save some time there. But obviously, if you guys were to buy one of these kits through one of the installers, like myself, you would need to either have us strip the interior, or you would first start out by stripping the interior of the car. Then the second step would be installing the base plates. And so you'd prep the metal around it, get the paint removed where the base plate will go, and then tack it in place. We're gonna have Mark talking to you guys about that when he starts doing that, and he's gonna perform the install. Something cool about this install is Mark is a really good welder. He is very capable of doing this install. He has never fully built a roll cage from start to finish, but since he doesn't have to do any tube bending or notching, this will just be probably a no-brainer for Mark, but let's let him tell you about that when he's working on it and when he finishes it. So if you guys look close here on the main hoop, you can see there's a little etched circle there. And then you come down further, there's another one right here. This is where your harness bar will go across. This one up here is where your A-pillar would tie in. And then I'm assuming there's another one underneath here for the diagonal to go. So the cool thing about these kits is there isn't a direction for you to follow exactly just like step by step, but there's a spot where the tube needs to land. So that's just unheard of, like, and it will be symmetrical. Like normally you're just kind of building a cage with, you know, no directions, and it's just a one-off piece that's being fabricated. For someone that's built a lot of cages, I think this is really cool to look through this. Something I kind of forgot to say on these base plates, since it's a 6-point cage, it'll be tied into the chassis in 6 different spots. You have 6 base plates, but these base plates are, as you can see, bent on a brake. They're never gonna fit exactly perfect. Out of these 2 surfaces, you'll get the surface that fits the best. You're only gonna tack them in at first, and then later, once you've already fully assembled the cage and you're ready to fully weld these in, you may have to grab a hammer and massage this into place a little better on, I don't know which one yet. Mark will show you guys that as he's in that section of the install. Part of building a cage that you might have to massage this in with a hammer a little bit, or you're gonna end up filling, you know, a gap in certain areas versus the opposite side or whatever of the base plate. One other direction that Rob had just given me when I was speaking with him. So you tack the base plates in. By no means do you ever want to weld them all the way in. Then after they're tacked in the proper spot, you're going to start in the front and work your way back. So you'll get the A-pillar bars and the main hoop setting in place, and that'll be the 4 front points. And you'll tack them in place and tack them together. And then you would work back from there, like the diagonal bar and some of the bars on the back of the car. And once they're all tacked lightly together, then you will take them off of the base plates and you'll remove the base plates, lower the cage down a little bit, and then you can finish weld the top, which would have been very close to the roof of the car where you were not able to get a welder. And all these details are gonna happen, and Mark's gonna show you guys some of that, or it'll just be time-lapse. You'll get to see it happen. But I just wanted to share that with you guys in case you purchase this and you just go at it. I don't want you to accidentally weld in a base plate all the way and then that kind of mess up what you're gonna do. This would be your parts list, and you just gotta double check that everything's there on your pallet before you begin. Otherwise you might get part way in and be like, wait a minute, I didn't check. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. Let's move over to the car, and Mark is gonna show you what he's gonna do to begin prepping to install the base plates. We unwrapped everything, we test fit some of the stuff. We just wanted to get our everything, kind of like our bearings right before we start on this, because we've never done one of these exact cages yet. So here's a base plate. Mark has been like kind of removing some of the wiring that was in the way, and he was removing hardware and stuff that was kind of in your way. So he's getting ready to want to clear the paint away from the area where this will sit, and then he'll probably tack it in some choice areas, but we could let Mark kind of explain what he's gonna do for that, and then he could bring you guys with him inside and show you what's gonna happen. Probably briefly with that camera, but we're doing a lot of time lapse, so you guys will get to see the work in action. Why don't you kind of explain what you're gonna do in there?
Pretty much, you put the base plates in and then figure out where they go, and then trace where you're gonna clean the paint away so you have a good spot to weld. And you do it on all 3 per side. From there, after you tack them in place, then you can start fitting the cage. Where all the base plates are gonna sit, I can go ahead and tack these into place.
All right, so step 1 is complete, where Mark has got the base plates tacked in place where they'll be. And then next, we are going to start bringing in some of the tubing that's pre-made. So he'll start with the main hoop, get it in there, and probably have to use something to hold it in place unless it's such tight fitment. But if it's not, he'll probably use blue tape or something he can remove easily to like kind of set that in place, and then bring the 2 A-pillar bars and put them in place. Once he has those sections, which will be 4 points touching the base plates, he might tack the main hoop in and then tack A-pillars to main hoop, and possibly then put the front bar in that goes up above the windshield, like the windshield bar up here, and possibly the dash bar to like tie everything in kind of like a square. And then he would work his way back to the back of the cage. Take a closer look at this cage. It's a nice welding head, Mark.
Yeah.
It's a Bluetooth welding head. just looked, it's really blue, extra blue. This has gotta be one of the coolest cages ever. Wow, everything fits so freaking good. Check that out, what the heck, Rob? Rob's the guy that designs this. Oh my gosh, it's like, no, it can't be stupid proof, you guys.
If I figured it
you
out
guys know
that
there's
quick.
stupid people out there. But look at the fitment.
Oh, grab a double.
It's like absolutely perfect so far. Still has anti-intrusion bars and door bars. It probably like pushes out like the slightest bit like that. So that's the only fitment issue so far. So that means you probably have to tug on this before you weld it down here to like bring it back towards the back of the car, like an 1/8 inch or whatever. That's just a guess. The scribe mark would be right at this level right there. Yeah.
Cut those studs out, that might.
Yep, I bet you do have to cut those out. We would knock these base plates out of the way and the cage would fall down, but it's not gonna fall easily because everything's so close. You'd actually have to cut that one too. Because we need it to go down so that we can get enough space for the welder to fit on top of all those bars that need to get welded. But man, this thing fits good. This is a good cage, guys. So he makes it for most chassis, not all chassis. He's always adding chassis when he can 3D scan them. And he can get his hands on it like a naked, empty chassis that inside's been stripped out. So depending on what car you guys have, you could buy a cage kit from us and we could install it if you're local, or you could have someone else install it for you, but you could buy it through us. Yeah, sometimes there's fire, be careful. Boom, he had brake cleaner, lacquer thinner with some of, you know, what was on that rag, and then when the sparks hit it, caught on fire.
Now I finished tacking everything. It was pretty easy and everything fit pretty much perfect first time. I didn't have to grind anything or re-notch anything, and yeah, now I have to weld it where you can right now, then drop the cage to finish weld it, and then put the cage back up and weld in the base plates. Now that I welded everything around the tube as much as I can, now we gotta take the doorbells out, drop the cage so we can finish weld above where the MIG gun won't reach. So now the cage is dropped. I welded all the way around the tube. So now we could push the cage back into place, tack it back to the base plates, and finish welding all of it together.
cage is done. Mark didn't want to talk about it, so go over it real quick so you guys kind of get the last bits of it, and you can see how cool it turned out. So you notice I just stepped in, there's no door bars. We did not put the door bars in. We had them in, you can see tack marks where they were in at some point, but that was just for fitment and to make sure everything was lined up and spaced correctly. They're out because we're gonna be climbing in and out of this car to finish building a bracket to hold this and mounting the dash and display. A bunch of stuff when you're building a race car. It makes it a lot easier without door bars to get in and out. And there's no seats in here and we gotta put those in. So come in here the best you can and check this out. Everything went together exactly how he had said it would. He being Rob over at Cage Kits. As you can see, the base plates are fully welded in, everything is fully welded in. And after watching the time lapse, you guys would have seen how we did it, where we dropped it down, welded the top, put it back in, and came out really good. It only took about 2 days of work to do. We're basically at the end of the second day. So if you think about a typical roll cage, you'd have to do all the stuff Mark did do, but you would also have to build the base plates by hand. You would have to bend the tube and notch the tube, build each section of the cage by hand, which that was already done for us on a computer, and then Rob knocks it out on his bender that notches it at the, notcher and bender, and then it just shows up, and it was that easy. So I think you save about 40 hours, or maybe a simple cage would only take 40 hours, but it wouldn't have turned out this well. So you're saving a bunch of time, which is money. I think this is a win-win situation, and look at how tight the fitment is. So tight everywhere. That's almost impossible to do unless you've done like 50 cages in your life to be able to get something to turn out that good. I think this was a really cool experience. Now after doing that, I never want to ever build a normal cage like from scratch again. I'm gonna be like, oh, if Rob doesn't make a kit, not interested in doing it. That concludes the Cage Kits episode. If you guys have questions, just ask away, or if you want to buy Cage Kit cage, you could do that from us. Hopefully soon we'll get those on our website, or you could just contact us directly. Maybe Mark has something to say.
Don't build your own cage.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.